Good morning, everyone. You very dedicated few that have managed to get here for 9:30. Well done to those of you that were out till the wee hours last night, boogieing as well. Very pleased to see so many of you here, although I do notice the absence of quite a few people who I'm sure might be a bit sore after last night's fun and games. My name's Kerry Pinney, I'm Alt's Chief Operations Officer, and I'm just going to talk you through a few of the sort of welcome and housekeeping kind of things for this morning, and then I'll hand over to our co-chairs and then our fabulous Keynote panel. So, just in case you haven't been here before, if this is your first day with us, just so that you know, all of the rooms are on the ground floor, so any of the rooms that you're looking for are on this ground floor space here. There is a quiet space if you need to go somewhere and just get away and relax in a quiet space, get away from it all. But all the rooms are down here. You're currently in the Manchester suite, and all of the other rooms are on the other side of this corridor. Lunch, teas, coffees will all be served out there in the exhibition area. If you need any help while you're here as well, we are over in the main area in front of the door there, the registration desk. So if you need any help or any questions, just come over to the team and we'll do our best to help you. If you haven't taken a look at the programme, there's a QR code there for you. Just to say, this is a shorter programme today, so at the end of the workshops, around 4:15 is when the conference will close. So those final sessions will be the end of the programme, and we'll finish for the day. The schedule is pretty much the same as yesterday, with sessions in the morning and sessions in the afternoon. Plenty of breaks and times for you to network and chat with other delegates. We're not aware of any changes to the programme, so everything should be where it says it is at the time it says it is. Nothing else that we're aware of. And just to say, if you need a prayer room, there's a room in 112 for prayers if you need it. If you need to join us and want to join us online, there's different ways that you can join us and follow the conversation. So we'll chiefly be using Blue Sky and Mastodon throughout the conference for posting, thanks to Rich, our social media guru at the front, for doing all of our posting from our main accounts. Follow the hashtag AltC24 on any of the platforms that you use, and you'll find our information there. For those who've joined us online and for those in the room, if you want to chat with other delegates, you want to share resources, share your slides for the sessions, then you can also use our Discord server to do that. And if you haven't got the instructions, you don't know how to do it, just come and see us on the registration desk and we'll get you set up. A reminder as well that the Thursday night show is still running, so all week we've had Dom doing various radio shows pre-recorded. There's some interviews and other things as well that Dom's been doing. And if you've missed anything that you're really interested in, you'll be able to listen to that back as well later. A reminder too that all the rooms, especially the parallel rooms, are live streaming constantly. So if you've got anything to say that you wouldn't want other people to hear, best to leave it till you're outside in the corridor, because there's always someone listening. Big Brother is absolutely here, so just be aware of that. Sessions in each room, if there's more than one session, they'll run in the order that they're listed in the programme. And then at the end, there's plenty of time left, once all the speakers have finished, for Q&A for the speakers. There's a good bit of time left at the end of each session. If you can, it would be really helpful for those joining us online if you can share your slides in advance so that they can see them and use them on their own devices. It's much easier for them to see it that way. If you've shared your slides with us but you haven't told us it's fine for us to share them, just let us know and we'll share them for you so that delegates can get to them. But if you haven't told us we're allowed to share them, we haven't. So do let us know if that's fine by you. And if you can, if you've got ways for them to interact either with something like Vvox or you're able to monitor Discord or something like that, then do let them know online in your sessions so that they can actually join in with your sessions and get involved in the conversation. Hopefully you'll have picked up your scavenger hunt card on your way in if you're new today. If you haven't, go and pick one up. Visit all of our exhibitors and you'll be put into the prize draw for a free ticket for next year. If you're looking for Consensu and you're wondering what their word is, that's their word. Gallagher, as I'm told by Tom, to pronounce it, or Gallagher if you're from Manchester. So that's their word if you're missing one. Just want to point out a couple of sessions that we're doing today that may be of interest. So firstly, this morning we have our launch of our different SIGs, our new SIG. So we've got an accessibility SIG that's launching this year. That's a special interest group. Digital sustainability, independent consultancy, and digital assessment. So if you're interested in any of those topics, come along. They'll be talking to you about what they're planning to do as part of the special interest group, the sorts of things that they might offer, and also tell you a little bit about how you can get involved as well. If you are a CMALT holder, so if you have certified membership with us at any of the associate CMALT or senior CMALT, and you're interested or you've been thinking about becoming an assessor for CMALT or something to add to your CPD, something to add to your CV, then come along to the session at 11:15 in Brussels as well. That will be chaired by Julie Vos, Matt Cornock and Puyin Wong. Julie and Matt are really long-standing CMALT assessors, so they can tell you a lot about the process and what's involved. So if that's something you're interested in, do go along to that. And we also have, later this afternoon as well, we'll be talking about a new piece of work that we've been working with King's Digital. That's King's College London, for those who don't know, but King's Digital, part of King's College London, and with Catalyst, who are exhibiting in the exhibition area there, on a CMALT course. So anybody that's interested in doing certified membership of ALT is a course that will help you, essentially a scaffolded way to go through the course and then eventually have a portfolio ready to share. They will also be talking a lot about the way that they've project managed this piece of work, how they've done the learning design to create this course, how they've worked with us as the sort of subject matter experts in creating the course. So if you're interested in learning design, you're interested in online courses, working with distance learners, working with adult learners, those sorts of things, then please do come along to that. They'll be sharing lots of interesting information around how they actually put the course together. We'll also be sharing some little updates as well from other things that we've done around CMALT, but the bulk of the session will be around the sort of learning design and how we put that course together. My voice is starting to fail. There's too much, very much too much screaming at the songs last night. And then lastly as well, a big shout out to our award winners who got their awards last night. There's a few of them, I think, here who've managed to get up nice and early after their celebrations. But there'll be an awards winners showcase that David White, our president, will be chairing with lots of interviews to understand why did these people win, what they've been working on, and if you're thinking about maybe applying in future, come and hear how other people have won the award and how they went about doing that. So do come along to that this afternoon. And lastly, I just want to say a welcome to our new CEO, Susan Martin. So if you weren't at our AGM yesterday, it is official now, per our constitution, that Susan is now the official chief executive of ALT. So you'll be seeing a lot more of Susan from now on. This is week 3 for Susan, so it's been quite a baptism of fire to come to the ALT conference this week. But she's been here, immersing herself, getting to know people, getting to understand the conference, getting to know members as well. So you will see her around the conference as well. So do, I'm not Professor O'Sullivan, I wish I was, but do go and speak to Susan if you see her. She's very interested in hearing from members and understanding, what members would like to see ALT do in future. So please do go and chat to her. Lastly, big thank you to our sponsors, Anthology. in particular, who are our headline sponsors, and we've had lots of other people who have contributed to the conference in different ways, and it really is true to say that if they weren't contributing in the way that they do, we wouldn't have a conference. So a big thank you to them, and do go around and talk to them, show them some love in the exhibition area. And finally, a thank you to the CMOC committee, who have all contributed to this work, to Rich, who's been doing our social media, to Dom, who's done the whole of the radio show and masterminded that, and to all the speakers, all the people who've appeared on the radio shows, all of the session chairs who've been making sure that things keep to time, supporting the Q&A, and also to the alt staff team, particularly Katie, who does pretty much all of the work to put this thing together, and then the staff team who help and support her in putting this together. They're all at the front of the exhibition area. Fiona and Christina, Jane, Emma, Lynn, and Emily are all here as well, and they all contribute to putting this together. To the Radisson staff as well, who have been fantastic, and to our AV team, to Sean, to Alid, and to Michael, who have been dealing with issues in the room, issues online, really responding very quickly to those things and just supporting everybody throughout the conference, so a big thank you to them as well. And as it's the last day, and this is the final time I'll get to speak to you all, and I may not get the chance to speak to you all, and thank you on behalf of ALT. So a big thank you from ALT for coming along, for sparing the time, the budget, to come along, to those people who have taken the time to submit presentations and put all those things together. A huge thank you to you all. This conference wouldn't happen if you all didn't come, and it certainly wouldn't happen, if we didn't have the interesting practice that you're doing, that you're willing to share. So a huge thank you to you all for coming along. And just to mention that the recordings from all of the rooms will be made available to you as soon as we can, essentially, so you'll be able to watch anything back that you missed. And also to say that the conference proceedings from the emerging research stream will also be shared with you when it's available as well, once we've done some editing and put all of that together. So there'll be lots post-conference as well to take away from the conference. And finally, just a big thank you to Scott and Diane for the last time today. It comes around very quickly, the final day, for everything that they've done in putting this conference together, in supporting the committee, putting the themes together, and giving the sort of general steer and vibe for this conference. So for the final time, I'll hand over to Scott and Diane for the last day of the conference and to introduce our keynotes. Thanks very much, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those online, to those here for the third day, and to those who've just joined us. I think it's been a great conference, and I'm kind of glad it's the final day because I can go home and sleep, but also very disappointed. I'm Diane Bennett. I'm Teaching and Learning Manager in distance learning at the University of Manchester. So I work with a team of people who work with academics to design and develop online postgraduate courses.
And I'm Scott Farrow, Head of Digital Learning. Again, apologies if you've heard this welcome 3 times, but also welcome to those of you that are here just for the day, and also to our participants online as well.
I'm too short. The themes for the conference came about through conversations Scott and I have had over several months. We also looked at the annual survey, we looked at what's happened in previous conferences, and we wanted to bring in things that were important, that were of value to us. We also wanted people to be able to take away practical things that you could go and implement, as well as having those inspiring blue sky thinking kind of talks. And hopefully we've done that. I think the speakers have really embraced the themes and run with them in many different ways.
I just wanted to echo quickly what Kerry just said about the conference committee. I'm conscious of the time and getting the keynote started on time for you, but I just wanted to take a second for us to put our hands together for a final time for not only the conference committee, but everybody that's kind of submitted to present, and everybody that's managed to get here as well to attend this conference. So thank you. And then we'd just like to introduce Ethan from VVox, the audience engagement partner. He's going to come and do a couple of icebreaker questions for us.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Diane, once again. I must admit, I'm a bit tired and kind of struggling a bit this morning, so I'm struggling to get words out with colleagues, so we'll see how this goes. But let's just jump right into it. If we can jump over to Vvox, and we've already got the first icebreaker open. If you can join using the QR code or the 9-digit code, then that would be fantastic. So the question is, what is the kind of biggest challenge you're going to face over the next 12 months or so? So yeah, emerging themes there. I think we ran a similar question to this last year, and AI was absolutely the biggest thing on there. So it's maybe nice to see that that's appearing a little bit smaller, and that kind of initial buzz around it has died down a little bit. Okay, I'm aware of time, so we'll give it just a moment longer, and then we'll close that up. But yeah, lots of things about budget, time, definitely. Buy-in, fatigue, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and close that one, please, and jump into another icebreaker on a slightly more positive note. So if we can move on to the next one. What is your conference highlight so far? I know for me, sitting in here for the... oh, fantastic. I promise that's not planted. That wasn't me. Yeah, definitely a highlight for me was yesterday's student panel. It was really interesting, and the room was absolutely packed, and there were questions coming in from everywhere. And yeah, conversations I've had with other people after definitely showed that it is a real highlight. I think it's heard from a few people that it's quite easy to forget that students are really at the heart of all this. So yeah, student panel, networking, Alt-C radio, the people, the dad dancing, 8 out of 10 cats, not the food, someone didn't like the food, okay. All right, we'll leave that there. Thank you everyone so much for participating. In Vvox as well, there's a survey open, and there's a chance to win a free ticket to next year's conference. So do take part in that, and you might have a chance to attend next year for free. But thank you everyone so much for participating with Vvox and just in the conference in general over the last few days. It's been a real pleasure to stand up here in front of you, and I know myself, my colleagues Brogan and Alan have really enjoyed being here. So thanks so much, everyone.
It's not happening. Oh, it's there. Thank you. Sorry, technology. Finally, I'd like to invite our keynote panel to take the stage. We've got a panel of people here who are going to talk to us about inviting improvement through lived experience, and I'll invite Alice to chair the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here this morning. I hope your heads aren't too sore after last night. So yes, my name's Alice Chapman. My pronouns are she and her. I am the product developer in the learning design team at Arden University. And my main focus there really, I look at the digital accessibility of learning design and support the team with that. But I also manage a number of different conditions myself, and I always am looking for ways to try and bring opportunities for people to talk about their lived experience. And I just wanted to sort of say thank you to Scott and Diane and to Alt as well for allowing us to have this keynote session and to highlight accessibility and inclusivity as part of what we do, as it's not always recognised at a lot of different conferences, so it's really great to be here. But we've got a really brilliant panel today for you, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm sure I wouldn't do justice of the amazing things that they do themselves. So there's a microphone just there. I'm going to, if we can pass that around. But yes, start on the end with Fawn. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. I'm Fawn, my pronouns are they, them. I'm a psychology student at Arden University and an ambassador of the Neurodiversity Network.
I'm Piers Wilkinson. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the Senior Policy and Campaigns Lead at Diversity and Ability. Some of you may have encountered us before. You may have also seen me on the Disabled Students Commission or the House of Lords Higher Education Commission. There's a lot of titles involved with those sorts of things, but it's not as snazzy as it sounds. You don't get paid. My expertise is both through lived experience, as a wheelchair user, but also with a whole bunch of other fantastic barriers. But as I like to say, I might be a professional in the sector, but I have lived experience expertise as well. So it's about marrying those two together, whether it's the digital accessibility side or the fact that I use everything myself, including assistive technology.
Hello, my name is Lucy and pronouns she, her. I work at AbilityNet, which is a charity that works towards digital accessibility and inclusive user research. And we also offer services to higher education and further education in the form of services such as accessibility audits, user research training, and maturity model work, which helps improve digital accessibility and map out a future roadmap for institutions to use. I've also got lived experience being neurodivergent, being a parent to neurodivergent children as well, and I've been to 4 different universities, so I've got that experience, and I specialise in education and psychology. I've also worked as a teacher across all sectors, from primary to further education, for nearly 20 years.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Hector Minto. I'm pronouns he, him. I'm the lead accessibility evangelist at Microsoft. Essentially means that I run a global program with our field, our sellers around the world, to drive conversations around the investments we make on accessibility, but also share how we approach disability inclusion as Microsoft with our own employees and with our partners across the globe. I've spent too many years working in assistive technology. So essentially I spent 20 years before Microsoft working with assistive technology creators and providers and joined Microsoft 8 years ago. The main reason being is that disability technology is going to be mainstream. I mean, it is mainstream technology now. So when you look across big tech, you're going to see so many more investments in assistive technology and accessibility. AI is going to play a major role in the inclusion of people with disabilities in a increasingly digital society. And we need people with disabilities with lived experience influencing the design of the future societies that we're building. So glad to be here.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for your introductions. So we're going to get stuck in straight away. We've got a few questions that we're going to go through, but we do invite you to use Vvox to get your questions in, and we'll have some time at the end of the questions to go through some of your questions as well. So the first question that we're going to be talking about, so who should be involved in accessibility process discussions, and what does this mean in practice? I don't know if anyone's got any burning desires to jump in with that. Thanks, Piers.
Disabled people, first and foremost. Whether they're an expertise through lived experience or an expert through professional experience, got to be in the room, got to be part of the discussion, mainly because otherwise you miss the really, really obvious. A story of that is the Higher Education Commission did a survey, or tried to do an online survey, to assess digital poverty. For those that haven't picked it up, it's going to get skewed answers. And this is the thing, is that it's similar when we talk about accessibility process discussions. If you haven't got the lived experience in the room, the really obvious to everyone else can often get overlooked. So it's all well and good having experts and professionals, but you need those with lived experience to sort of go, hang on a second, this doesn't work because X, Y, Z. Or okay, great, it's technically accessible, but I can't use that word. It's a challenge to engage. And we all know that it's all well and good having things made accessible. If people don't know about it or they have the wrong perception of it, you might as well not have done it. So it's not just about the technical accessibility, but it's also about the perception of what you're doing. So invite the students into the room, invite disabled staff members into the room, but make sure in particular, and I'll just finish on this before handing over to one of my other wonderful colleagues, is make sure they can actually speak. Too often you might only invite one disabled person in the room, and that's not great. It shouldn't all be on one individual's shoulders, so diversify. The disabled community is massively diverse. And then secondly, with being able to make practical change, don't have your chair be the most senior person in the room in that discussion. The most senior person in the room shouldn't be the one who's deciding who gets to speak next. And that enables those that want to raise some of the challenges or some of the issues or point out some of the problems with budget, maybe. My favourite is pointing out whether the biscuit budget is more than the AT budget in certain institutions. And being able to highlight that in the room is equally as important as having the lived experience.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Yeah, definitely disabled people and students as well. I think we can over focus on the practical side and not like the cultural side, and it's important to think about that and make it like humanize the approach and make room for people to say, you know, this. The product is okay, but how you access it is wrong, or how you've described it is wrong, or when we can use it is wrong. How it's like advertised and how it's. I mean, in education, especially when how you're allowed to use it is sometimes like dictated by people that don't have the experience. So I think, yeah, there needs to be some kind of cultural. I hope this makes sense. Like kind of cultural element it's a lot of things you're trying to do at once, and oversimplifying it is a problem. And also, sometimes you will have a problem with like the good disabled person. They're saying it how you want, and they're saying what you want, and that will get prioritized more than the person that's saying it harshly or saying something that's like, oh, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. And it's like, well, that might be more important, and you do kind of need to just hear everybody, and yeah, for that reason, the diversity is very important. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that speaks back to the student panel yesterday as well, actually, and sort of listening to each other is really important. Go on, Lucy.
Yeah, I think my two colleagues here, I've just been looking through my notes, and my key point was, I'm sure you've heard this before, the nothing about us without us message. Student voice is the most important contributor here towards sort of getting it right, really, but also all stakeholders in a university or institution need to be involved, from department leaders to procurement departments, teaching staff. But I think, yeah, like you've said, the students are central. Their lived experience is what really is the key driver here.
Okay, so I can let me start with just maybe giving you kind of a bit of a reflection on Microsoft's journey on this. Microsoft's been on the hook for accessibility for as long as we've been around. Okay, so in terms of, you know, things, if Microsoft's products are not accessible, people with disabilities don't access email, don't access the internet. You know, so we have a big responsibility in society. But the problem sometimes is you get lost in legal risk and legal compliance, and you miss some of the aspects that we've been talking about here, which are disability culture. And it took Microsoft quite a long time to work that out. It took Microsoft quite a long time to work out that people with disabilities needed to be leading the accessibility strategy at Microsoft, as opposed to lawyers worrying about risk mitigation. Now, we still do risk mitigation, okay? We still have legal risk. Our products have to meet increasing numbers, by the way, of global legal regulations on accessibility. But fundamentally, the design of everything that we do, and I don't just mean our products, I mean our events, our processes, everything that we do, have to take into consideration the lived experiences of people with disabilities. And the only way we do that as a company is that we train everyone. So 200,000 people at Microsoft are trained on disability and accessibility, and it's as simple as that. It's mandatory learning. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody suddenly has their enlightenment moment and makes sure everything's accessible. I would love it if that were the case, but it's not the case. But what it absolutely says is it's your responsibility, okay, because you took the training. Okay, and so when we come back to you later to say that something was not designed accessibly, that there was an issue, that there is an issue with a product, there is an issue with an event or something, we signpost you back to the learning and the policies, and this is where I'm going to get boring for a moment, but you need accessibility policies. What is your accessibility policy? And I worry sometimes, and I always like to be a little bit, difficult on a panel, but I worry sometimes when I speak to educators, and I mean specifically in schools, maybe less in universities, when we just go student, student, student. Okay, your employees have disabilities, and if you don't have policies on employees with disabilities, you'll never get students right. And your chance of getting accessibility right as an organization in terms of your product, which are your lectures, essentially, or your courses, will be if you're reflecting on your processes internally with your colleagues, which means hire people with disabilities. It's like, this is easy, yeah? And know how many people with disabilities that you hire, and strive for more. And work with your recruiters to make sure that you're employing people with disabilities, and get to a point where your employees with disabilities are saying, I am a person with a disability, rather than hiding their disability. Just to be a little bit more difficult for a moment as well, there are no captions in this room. Now, that's very, 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 very common, okay? If you are somebody with a hearing loss, you can get captions through your PC. You can get, if you've got a Google phone, there are free captions available on that. If you've not got a Google phone, you can download Microsoft Group Transcribe or Microsoft Translator, and you can have captions. The reason I say that is that you also, regardless of what policies you put in place, with ramps to the stage, with making things accessible, deliberately accessible, you sometimes miss out. And you sometimes create a situation where something is not accessible. So you also need to be live to the moment to try and make something accessible, and humble enough to not see it as just legal risk or criticism, but okay, learning. Let's try and make things more accessible in the future, and let's make plans for next year, or let's learn about it. So confidence is grown in an organization when you're having kind of multi-stakeholder conversations, and that mix of policy and learning, but then also kind of, feedback, critique.
Yeah, I think that, you've hit it all, haven't you there, really, all of you? And I think communication is so important with that, isn't it? Because, as you say, and actually just being able to have the confidence to speak to people and feel that you can speak to people. Just remember that we're human. Everybody is a human being, first and foremost. And so it's without hearing people's lived experience, then you can't make those changes, you can't learn from it, and you can't make things better for everyone. And we have sort of touched on a couple of different areas that we're going to be delving into a little bit deeper. But the next question that we've got on here, so what are the main challenges and differences you see around online access versus in-person access for accessibility of learning technology? I'm going to go to Lucy.
Yeah, I think we really need to make sure that we have, and some of this links into what Hector was just saying actually about training, onboarding for new staff, and being aware, having really clearly defined processes in place that are understood not only by the staff but also by the students as well. So it's really clear, there's no uncertainty around it. So also things like offering a choice where possible. It's not just people that identify as disabled that can benefit from a lot of accessibility things that are put in place. It can be anybody, people at different times going through their working or educational life as well. So choice is key here. Is there, for example, a need for something to be in person, or could the use of technology enable a more suitable approach for certain people? And I think Piers mentioned earlier about challenges of digital poverty as well, challenges of online access in the UK and the digital divide. There could also be sort of a lack of personalised support for people, and sort of difficulties in ensuring consistent accessibility across different platforms as well. And then in-person access can also face challenges related to sort of the variability in physical infrastructure, and sort of the need as well to be alert to being in the moment, to being quick to adapt to things, and also the willingness to say, okay, this isn't working, let's try this instead. So I think both online and sort of in-person access has advantages and disadvantages. Online learning can often offer a lot of flexibility. In-person learning can be more immediate and allow you to react quicker to perhaps people's support needs and any challenges they're having with their engagement. And so it's a balancing act, I think, and it's a challenge at the moment as well to get the balance right, because we're all so different, and from staff to students have such different needs.
Yes, definitely.
I think when it comes to getting accessibility needs met in person, I find people tend to focus on getting you in the room and that's it. So the door might be accessible if you open both of them, but you can't open both of them on your own. There was one building where they had a double door, but the button only opened one door, and it was the release button was on the right-hand side, so most people are right-handed. They're going to have to press that and try and wheel out and stick their foot out if they can to kick the door open. Oh, I hope the mic was picking that up. You know, it wasn't, the whole thing didn't make any sense, but technically you could get in, so they thought it was covered. In terms of like if there was a fire, I wouldn't get out. That's not enough. It's just one thing. That's like leaving a window and saying, oh, anyone could get in now, you know. And with online stuff, I think there's assumption of there's some choice, so it's pretty much accessible. You've got all that you need to, so it's kind of fine, really. Whereas one of the biggest problems with both is the culture again, like how comfortable they are assessing whether what you're asking for is legitimate or not, and the comfort of people with access needs saying I have some issues here, and a lot of physically disabled people and neurodivergent as well have comorbid mental illness, and I think a lot of that is to do with the stigma and the like anxiety of going out of the house and having so many like safety risks, and like, you know, some people get angry at you needing things that they get by default, that they get angry at you. It's quite scary, and I don't think people think that a lot. And I'm quite new to using a manual wheelchair, and people assume I know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm new to this. They just assume you've always needed this, so you just figure it out. And having an environment where it's like there is like one-to-one person that will kind of keep up to date with you, liaise for you, have like a personalized approach of what do you need, like let's keep the communication open, not a one-time tick some boxes and that's it all you're getting. I think that like mentality is so needed, and that would solve a lot more problems than the tick boxing, because you would be actively looking and working together to find solutions.
Yes, thank you.
A little bit of audience interaction, if that's okay, because it's fitting exactly on what you said there about culture, methodology. Who's got a website or digital access statement on your sites? If it's not all of you, you're breaking the law. Because of the public sector body accessibility regulations, you need a digital accessibility statement. Who's done that for your physical estate? Yes, you need to do it for your physical estate. And I think it's a cultural issue that with our digital estate, we've listed, because we've had to, exactly what's accessible, what isn't accessible, who to contact when that particular part of the estate isn't accessible. And yet we're still not doing that for our physical estate. So there's a cultural split between the two. And I think the physical estate people that probably aren't in the room right now could learn a lot from the approach of how we tackle accessibility of digital estate. Second issue is holistic approach. And that is because when we think of load on a server or a digital site, we think of peak capacity. But we forget about that in physical access. And I'm going to say plug sockets, because it doesn't matter how much DSA, one-to-one, or other funded directly by the university or privately I've been provided. If I get to my lecture room as a wheelchair user and there isn't a plug socket that is at an accessible height for me to use, I have a £15,000 brick on my lap. So digital and physical need to start working together, need to start being honest and transparent about what you do have, what you don't have, so timetabling has a chance. Because it isn't an alternative to in-person. In-person has its own uniqueness. But I'd rather engage with a lecture, or I used to engage with a lecture virtually, or catch up with the Panopta or whatever it was, than spend 20 minutes getting to there, realising that I've now got a brick on my lap because I can't charge it, and then just sit there angry in the lecture, not learning, and then still have to catch up after the point when I'm still angry. So it is both about lived experience, it's both about holistic approach, but for the love of God, talk to each other, share your methodologies, talk about peak load, talk about plug sockets, hire an architect that actually knows what digital accessibility is so that you can marry the two up, and test stuff. We test our websites all the time. We don't test our hearing loops in lectures. We don't test the microphone quality after it's been there for 2 years to a degree. So work together, talk to each other, and please, please create a physical statement alongside your digital statement. It was a rant, I apologise.
So in so many ways, the digital experience is not, or digital challenges are not so different to the physical challenges. When you describe kind of not being able to get in through the doors and stuff like that, anybody who's hearing that problem or that challenge or that, that responsibility they have, first thing they think about is, well, how am I going to get the budget to fix that? Okay, and that's always the problem. That's always the problem. And so this is why it's super important that accessibility is a conversation at the design stage. Legacy is always hard to put right, and it's the same in the digital space. If you have a legacy inaccessible ecosystem, well, who's going to find the budget to fix that? And why are we fixing it? Yeah, is always the challenge. And then it's just, is it really just for accessibility? Like, is that why we're doing all of this? Is something we hear all the time in the digital space, and it's really no different in the accessible space. We do have a building policy globally, and so, but we still have inaccessible buildings around the world. Yeah, because we've got contracts, yeah, we've got offices. Can I tell my favourite story just super quickly? Germans love fire doors. I just don't get it. I mean, like they really love a good heavy fire door. And then there's all sorts of laws about ones that you're allowed to automate and stuff like this. And so I guarantee you we spend more on paint through spilt coffee around door frames in our German offices than we do kind of anywhere else in the world. And I think if we just took the paint budget and moved it to the accessibility budget, we'd fix it. And the point I'm kind of flippantly trying to make is, if you don't get it right at the design stage, justifying anything is hard. The beauty of the online space is that the online space is getting more fluid in that products are not broken forever. When we get things wrong, every company gets things wrong on accessibility. You may have moved past it in the project sense, But in terms of making the changes, it's much more easy to change things that are online products now. Cloud-delivered products are easier to adapt than the CD you bought 3 years ago and installed. And so this is the evolution that we're starting to see in the digital space. The problem I think we have is that there's not enough complaint about inaccessibility. And so the feedback loop in terms of two companies when things that are digital are not accessible is the challenge. And I would really kind of make that the plea to any tech companies here in this space, is to be open to critique and feedback on the accessibility of the products that you build. I will just say, this is not an education, this is across all digital transformation. So if you're a bank right now thinking about branch closures and pushing everybody online, your blocker is people who can't get online, yeah? And therefore it's accessibility. And so every organization around the world, and every company, every industry around the world is now currently thinking about inclusive digital transformation. Well, should be thinking about inclusive digital transformation. In terms of student experiences, we learned a lot through the pandemic. So maybe just some kind of ammo for you as you move forward with kind of your justification about investing time in accessibility. Global use of online captioning went up 3,600% during the pandemic, as in people who are remote to this event right now may have chosen to stay remote because they're having an online more inclusive experience. Great, that's a good thing. Right? But they had the choice. That choice was given by the conference organizers. So there's an increased confidence of people with disabilities to take the online option sometimes because it is a more, they've learnt through the pandemic that it's a more accessible experience. And I say through the pandemic because that, I'm sure you remember this, it was a forcing function for all of us learning. But just to be clear, it was also a forcing function for people with disabilities to park their biases. I'm saying this very carefully, okay? I'm just like, okay. But interestingly, auto-captioning is jokingly called craptions. They put an R in it, yeah, okay? Because you've seen crap auto-captioning. It's, sometimes, it's not good. The work that's going in to make auto-captioning accurate now is incredible, and the mainstream world is moving to online automated transcribed meetings. Yeah, so it better be good. Yeah, the mainstream needs it to be good now, the accuracy. Yeah, but all I'm saying to you is we also have to be open to not just saying I can't use something. Yeah, because what happened during the pandemic as well is a lot of people with disabilities actually were forced to revisit what the online experience was like and where the advantages were and all those other things. So open-mindedness and humility on all sides, and please, for when things are inaccessible in the online world, tell people. One last thing for educators, you lock in inaccessibility when you create a PDF. Remember that. All right? And I know that's certainly not, I love Adobe, I'm a massive fan of Adobe, but you are responsible for the inaccessibility of the content you create. And the bit about I made my PDF and I locked it in and it was no longer accessible is your moment where you get to go, oh, am I locking in that inaccessibility and making it inaccessible forever? Open formats clearly allow us to stay accessible. Okay, rant, was it rant over? Is that the phrase?
To be honest, I think all of us could have a rant about something, couldn't we, in this space? But I think that's such a good point, and that's something that I'm sure a lot of people in the room, it's going to resonate with us, that will say to people, this PDF is not accessible, and we'll say to them, have you sent it in a Word document? And they'll say, no, because it was then open. And we'll say, well, that's the point. That makes it more accessible for people to access. There's a lot of conversations around that, aren't there? But actually, it does lead us on to the question, and if you'd like to keep hold of that microphone, because I know you're going to answer this one. So what is the impact of, I'm going to say it, AI on assistive technology?
Okay, okay, on assistive technology, it's amazing. I mean, let's just be blunt. So the improvement in assistive technology tools, the tools that people with disabilities need, digital disability technology tools. So the technology can only do so much, so you've got to remember to lift the microphone. Sorry. It has been mind-blowing. We already talked about auto-captioning, but just things like automatic image descriptions for people who are blind, things like voice control, voice input devices. Mainstream technology has become more accessible because of AI. Fact. Usage has gone up. And I'm just going to make also this point, global usage has gone up. We sit in a very privileged space in the UK in terms of attitudes towards disability and technology. We're quite mature on this topic in this country, and I would even say across Europe. There are European countries that are nowhere near where you folks are in terms of your awareness of the needs of accessibility and all these sorts of things. But global use of AI and cloud, I'm going to say. So AI, it's also about the delivery model. You know, cloud allows us to deliver globally. Assistive technology has been amazing. If you want to play with the world's most amazing assistive technology tool, put Seeing AI on your phone, Apple or Android. But Seeing AI is a massive game changer for anyone who's blind, low vision, accessing the world around them in terms of face recognition, text recognition, you know, image description, all sorts. I mean, it's like it's AI in your pocket. Can I extend the question? Yeah. Okay. The ongoing impact of AI on society has both opportunity and challenges for people with disabilities. Massive, you know, because what AI really is, and maybe kind of a good way to kind of describe it is you know, the kind of the zeitgeist moment was it 18 months ago, where we all kind of discovered ChatGPT and went, ooh, yeah, and ooh, yeah, okay. We kind of went both ways on it. That's happening. Digital transformation is coming thick and fast now. It's really just been an accelerator. The generative AI thing is going to really accelerate digital transformation. And when digital transformation runs too quickly, people with disabilities get left out. Okay, so it's speed of transformation. I would encourage you all to put the brakes on a little bit on AI and be responsible with AI. Bad AI creates bad decisions for people with disabilities. Yeah. Okay, but the opportunity for generative AI to unlock new innovation on people's devices is going to be amazing. One other quick download if you want to kind of play. If you're on a Windows PC, you're all on Windows PCs, right? No, if you're on a Windows PC, Be My Eyes is now available as a free download on Windows, which allows you to essentially take a screenshot of your screen, anything that's on your screen, a complex, I'm a chemist, so you know, complex formulae on a screen, take a screen grab and interrogate your screen about what you're looking at, which is amazing if you're blind, like unbelievable if you're blind. Like the final frontier of image description for graphs and graphics and all these sorts of things is within sight. You know, it is within sight. Yeah, but okay, that's the innovation side of things. The problem, let me just also quickly say, the one big problem organizations are finding with AI is it's putting real focus on their data governance. So if you start putting AI chatbots into organizations and things like this, if you don't have good data governance, what's starting to happen is students are finding things they shouldn't find. Or employees, in my world, are finding information they shouldn't find. So a lot of the brakes that are being put on by organizations in terms of their AI adoption is actually currently coming from, you know, it's putting a reflection on kind of, is their data infrastructure in place? So it's just one of those things. It's happening. It's coming. You can't ignore it. It's, you know, the world is going to adopt AI, but it's how do we grab both the innovation opportunity and how do we then use it also as a way to kind of drive best practice in responsible AI creation and good data governance?
I fully agree with you, which is we don't often agree on AI, Hector and I. I often have to sharpen the scissors to sort of cut apart what you said, but we agree. I'm going to give you some very specific advice here. Everyone in higher education is anxious about AI. Before you write any policy, define what you are intending to define as AI. Is it open source? Is it online? Is it any type of machine learning? Now, if you're sat there going, AI is not my cup of tea, then make sure whoever is writing the policy is a specialist, because most of my assistive technology relies on a form of machine learning, whether it's Dragon, Read and Write, whatever alternative softwares are available. And when we start developing policies for examinations, for digital platforms to ensure that the sanctity of learning, whatever that means, is protected from AI, we have to make sure that we don't impinge on the use of vital assistive technology for the use in exams, in assessments, in learning. There are some universities, I'm not going to name you, I will eventually, that are thinking of just flat outright banning all AI. Okay, cool. Does that mean no dragon? Does that mean no screen reader? Does that mean no dictation? Does it mean I have to uninstall Microsoft? Because you've got it on yours. We need to be better at defining what we don't want to be used in terms of learning. And ultimately, we need to move on from the Victorian times of assessment. Design assessment for the future of tomorrow. Test skills, not the ability of what AI can do and cheat your exam. So yes, learning technology is essential, but when we talk about the impact of AI on assistive technology, we have to be sure that fear doesn't override common sense, as I said at the start, and we define specifically what we mean by good and bad AI, what is essential, what isn't essential. Because there are a lot of, as you said, speedy responses to AI, the use of ChatGPT, the use of chatbots, and we forget that a lot of these technological developments all came from assistive technology in the first place. So we have to make sure that access doesn't get lost like those first few weeks of, well, first couple of months of the pandemic, where everything shifted online and all the disabled people, deaf, hard of hearing, autistic, neurodiverse, whatever, went, I can no longer access any education. And we got told, defer for a year. No. Put us front and centre, please. So when you're designing policy, when anyone in your institution is designing their approach to AI, make sure you're in the room because you are the specialist on assistive technology and you need to work with a specialist on AI to ensure that everything works together. Otherwise, we'll be at the back of the room again and we'll be going back to the 1990s in terms of use of assistive technology in higher education. Sorry to be a downer, but it's something I'm encountering more and more common, and I don't want to publicly shame you, and anyone that knew me in my NUS days, you know I will. But I'm also here to help. So if you have questions, come and talk to me and I can talk about getting around the nasty stuff. Sorry.
Does anyone want to come in?
Thank you. Yeah, I think between you, you've both covered anything I would say, and just thinking about particularly what you said, Piers, about making sure that you define what AI is, because I think sometimes we forget AI isn't just going onto ChatGPT and getting us to write a nice email. It's also used in so many assistive technology tools. And I know one of the discussions we've had recently where I work to do with user testing is about the sort of data protection, how people's data is used. There's still a lot of uncertainties that are perhaps making people a bit nervous. Perhaps we're not using it as well as we can do, or recognising places where it's still there. But there's so many. I'm just thinking of little tools that people perhaps don't know about. Yesterday I was doing some training and people didn't know that there was an accessibility checker in Word that you can click a button, it will tell you whether your Word document's accessible. And also I'm still thinking about PDF audits as well and the nightmares. But all those kinds of tools, they can make our lives so much easier. But it's getting over that hurdle as well of being, oh, this is all a bit new. What is it going to take over the world, and perhaps forget about still the need for human support and human interaction as well.
Thank you.
I think AI has a really exciting opportunity for us to rethink what learning outcomes should be, and what we'll be doing in the future. I know my university seems quite anxious about AI, but I already use ChatGPT to paraphrase stuff because everything is written for neurotypical people and I don't understand what they're saying half the time. So I need to interrogate ChatGPT, which does still talk like a neurotypical person, but it's more patient than a neurotypical person, so it will keep working with me until it makes sense. Is that cheating if I use AI to make me understand the learning outcome? Is it cheating if you've written your own work and then you use AI to write it in a more neurotypical way? Why would that be cheating exactly? What exactly are the learning outcomes, and how are you making sure? Because I feel like that one, could be cheating, but it's like, okay, so are you teaching neurodivergent people how to translate what they know, so it's in your language? They don't teach you that. So is that a reasonable learning outcome? And if it is, then are you teaching us that, or are you going to penalize us for using things that will teach us that? So I think like having a list of like these are acceptable AI things, and anything outside of that list is banned is a terrible idea, because we are very creative in how we use things. And there's a lot of tools out there that most the average able-bodied or neurotypical person at a university or whatever might not really know about. We share resources with each other all the time and stuff that you're not going to be able to make a safe list really. So you need to like really get into like the learning outcomes, and you have to get excited about this is changing things, and we should be rethinking what we're even trying to assess these days.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think we should give her a round of applause. And I don't know about anybody else, but there was a moment where I did chuckle when you said that ChatGPT can be more patient than a person. But how sad is that, really? It makes me feel quite sad.
It's more patient, but also just less judgmental is really what you're saying often in occasions. So, and that's the same for all of us using it.
Yeah. It speaks to society, doesn't it? If I could ask for the VVox questions to go up, please, while I just ask this next question, and then we'll have a little look at those. But I have got a question for you, Fawn, so if you wouldn't mind having that mic back. So what has your experience been like to date? Is there something in the education sector that you think is happening that we are getting right, and what thing could we do better, especially in digital education? Is there something that we can improve in terms of experience?
My experience has been pretty mixed. I started university like 10 years ago and had to take a huge, I had to go in and out because of inaccessibility. So at this point, it's a lot more accessible. There's more diversity in the student body. There's more inclusion on the entry point, in my opinion. Whether you can retain the disabled students is a different matter, but in terms of getting in, there's a lot more. It's a lot more accessible and inclusive. There's more understanding of neurodivergence, or at least more awareness of neurodivergence and disability. With regards to what could be done better, I think neurodiversity isn't fully understood. It's kind of, there's still a medicalized model applied to it. The requirement for diagnoses especially is a huge barrier. It's not very practical. A diagnosis isn't accessible for everybody, and also it doesn't really highlight what you need to know, which is the individual's access needs. And there's a sort of prescriptive way of applying like reasonable adjustments and stuff, which again, the same problem. My biggest issues, as I mentioned earlier, was understanding the learning outcomes. The rubrics are still quite hard to understand. And this is becoming more of a problem with presentations as assessments, which a lot of universities are trying to push. It doesn't seem like, from the student's point of view, it doesn't seem like they fully know what they want you to do with the presentation. It feels like the marking is a little bit subjective, and there needs to be like more clarity on what the learning outcomes are. There's a kind of assumptions on accessibility with those that are a problem, and also there's kind of an assumption on where, like, oh, you'll need this with your job, but as a disabled person, there's a lot of jobs you're like, this is not going to be accessible for me, I can't do all these things. I don't think it's understood how much pushing you to do certain assessments that might just represent huge workspace barriers is quite upsetting to disabled students, and just saying you just need to get used to this is the real world. The real world is a lot of us can't work even though we're more than qualified, so that does need to be looked at. And I do think, like, again, including students and including disabled staff and neurodivergent staff in these assessments, and figuring out whether it's accessible to different demographics, and just like understanding it, and whether it's applicable to their goals is one of the biggest things I think we'd want to focus on going forward.
Thank you. I think it's as we've said, there's this key theme, isn't there, of communication and having people at the table. And looking up at the questions that we've got coming through on VVox, there's actually the first one that's at the top there that people have voted for. A diverse student voice is so important. How would you recommend HE, FE institutions engage with students when they are already full with study, work and life pressures? Should student voice be more structured, recognised and compensated for their time?
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of seeking like expertise, information, and there should be some compensation for that. I think also, maybe this is a little bit off topic, but I think like there's a lot of opportunities to become a lecturer at university after you finish. I think there should be more like pushing of, hey, you have these lived experiences. Are there job roles that we could open up for you? You could continue help us like learn more about accessibility and stuff like that. Instead, you get asked to do some free stuff, and then you might leave. You might graduate and still not get a job at all. It's so yeah. Compensation would be good. In terms of managing the load, that is a good point. That it is quite draining for students. So I don't really know how that one would be worked. For me personally, I'm at an online university, so I take like, to be here, I'm taking like a semester off and doing little things like this, and then that's how I like keep my health kind of balanced. I guess maybe having more flexibility like that for students to study at their own pace might make it more accessible for them to actually engage with you on, what has been difficult in this last semester. I do also think really pushing quite regular reviews or surveys to figure out what has gone well and wrong, because I'll get surveys, but it seems like not to focus on accessibility. It's very unclear who the information's going to, if it's going to just a teacher, or if it's going to the inclusions teams, if it's going high enough for people that actually can action it. You don't usually get a report that tells you this is what students were saying. Personally, I love being info dumped, so I want to see these reports. I want to see all the stuff that's being acknowledged, even if you can't work on it for the next 5 years, just seeing that we've heard you, it's written here, we're not hiding it away, that is a big thing. So I think even if you don't get as many students as you'd like engaging, really like emphasizing their voice does a lot to make students feel that it's worth putting their time in.
Thank you.
I don't think you should compensate students. You should pay them. They are working. If you were to hire someone in an internship or for 3 months to do a project, you'd pay them because they are an expert in what they are doing. Why do we still think getting students to do the work doesn't mean that they get paid? It's ridiculous at this point because you're using them for their expertise and their lived experience. Pay them, do part-time work for the formalised structure, and importantly, make sure that you have all 3 routes of feedback. The formalised structure where you're hiring a student for 6 months to support you on your working groups, your Senate meetings with senior leaders, whatever it's called. Have your informal feedback mechanisms, which I think is what you've all got now, where you get students who are engaged around a table in your office and you have a chat with them, or online, whichever, and then you have your online feedback. But quick question, if someone encounters an issue, where is your contact information? By any chance, is it only on your website? So if they have a digital accessibility issue, how do they get your contact information to complain? Make sure you have redundancy and alternative formats for how people engage, whether it's through asynchronously or anything like that. If you want a full breakdown, I actually wrote guidance for the National Association of Disability Practitioners, Disabled Student Commitment Student Group, my God, acronyms. There's a full breakdown of how you can structure a formalised group, so check that out. But yes, pay students. We don't get other opportunities for part-time work at higher education. It's not like we can work in the bar too often or in Tesco or whatever. So pay students. Sorry.
One quick note as well. A lot of us are on disability, so you need to really think about whether we could accept that payment and how you might make it actually accessible in the first place for us to take that on without losing our entire income for the next so many years.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really good point. We are very nearly out of time, and I'm sure that people in the room have got loads of questions, but we can sort of continue talking through the break, I'm sure. But there is one question up on Vvox that, although it's talking about speed of a task, I don't think we're going to be able to answer in 5 minutes. Is there any quick or obvious wins that people can overlook, that people often overlook to improve accessibility and inclusion?
I'll be very quick here. Put it in your marking criteria. If you're assessing the quality of citations, why are we not teaching students how to make things accessible? If you've got a disabled lecturer, they'll love you for it. Put it in your marking criteria, then we'll get a future in 10 years' time where everyone can make things accessible. Sustainable culture change.
Yeah, quick wins, I suppose. It's things like making, perhaps through training, onboarding, showing staff, first of all, quick things like how can they make that Word document or the PDF document accessible. It's really easy, it's not complicated, it's not time consuming. The other thing is we find really impactful is particularly showing staff, showing what happened, what something that's inaccessible, what impact it actually has on the students. So I think at heart, staff lecturers, they want their students to achieve and to do well. Perhaps they're not aware of the impacts that inaccessible material, inaccessible buildings can have on the students in terms of their access needs and also their sort of mental well-being as well.
I think I mentioned a few of them, but I mean, have an accessibility strategy would be my best guidance. And the problem that we all have when we talk to organisations, not just in education, but across all, all industries, is that different people are taking the lead on this. So, you know, in some organizations it's a D&I issue, others it's a legal issue, others it's an HR issue. The truth is it's all of those issues, yeah? And if you're not seeing left to right on accessibility, then really you're not going to unpick your kind of your long-term wins. So we've been doing a lot of research, frankly, into this in terms of how should an organization approach this, and you mentioned maturity models earlier. I have challenges with accessibility maturity models in that they kind of almost expect you to be an accessibility expert first, rather than the leader responsible for the issue. So we now talk about accessibility across 3 horizons. So horizon 1, HR and IT partnering together. Yep. Are the tools that are used in your workplace accessible? Can employees with disabilities ask for accommodations and get what they need? Is horizon 1. It's like, are you supporting your colleagues? Horizon 2 is, do you have the skills as an organization to test for accessibility? As in, have you done the training? Can you do it? Are you employing organizations to help you with the rigor? I'm going to say it, the rigor of accessibility. None of this is for free. This is hard work. You know, it's work. It's work that's got to be done. And then the third thing is your innovation and your brand and your product. So we talk about product maybe in terms of lectures, but then also think about your brand. Like, who wants to be the most inclusive university in England, or Great Britain? Yeah, is it in your brand that you're inclusive? Are you already telling people that you're inclusive, but the rug gets pulled when people actually get into the organisation? Yeah, but essentially, unless you've got leaders, and somebody mentioned, is it too easy to put it on leaders? It's not too easy to put it on leaders. In Microsoft, the finance team are responsible for buying accessible product. That's their responsibility, not mine. Yeah, and we work with them to coach them, train them, make them understand it's responsible. Our events team are responsible for putting on accessible events. That's their skill set. Our HR team are responsible for recruiting disability talent into the organization. That's their responsibility. So spreading your accessibility strategy across every room of the house, as we would say inside Microsoft, is the most important learning we've had on this. Disability is not this. It's not a departmental topic. It's like everywhere. Like every single part of a modern business organization has some kind of responsibility for accessibility. You know, there's no point the D&I person going to the website owner and going, "Can you make your website more diverse and inclusive?" Like, what? No. That's a methodical deliverable. Like, you've got to make your website legal, yeah, and usable, yeah. But you're more strengthened as an organization to have that conversation if you've got a brilliant D&I strategy where it's like, it's great to have disability inside our organization. So, and we've put ebooks out on this to get people thinking about it, but please just lift it to the right level of seniority in an organization, yeah, and then order each part of your business in terms of what they contribute to accessibility.
Thank you. I'm aware that we are going slightly into the break, but I'm sure that Fawn's going to have something amazing for us to hear. So,
I'm the wordiest one as well. So the first one is communication, whether it's having a point of contact for students that they can go to, or having like an accessibility passport. I don't know the exact term. So like information can be shared more fluidly and accurately across the teams, because that's a huge problem. A lot of information gets dropped and people fall through the cracks all the time. Cultivate a culture of excitement with accessibility. It's not a checklist of everything you're doing wrong. It's a chance to to me, accessibility is like cyberpunk, sci-fi stuff. You're looking at all these cool enhancements you can do, and pushing the limits on things. That's the sort of feeling we should have when we're thinking about accessibility. Not just they're complaining again. We're not ticking boxes. One way to do that would be, and I think this is extremely important, is to think about every space that you've got or resource that you've got, and consider listing what's actually accessible about it. Instead of saying we're neurodiverse friendly or we're accessible, that doesn't mean anything. If you can say, with buildings where they say if they've got a ramp, how wide the doors are, that kind of thing. With resources like the PDF, you could pinpoint whether it's been tested for screen readers or not. because students will then or staff as well will have to test all of that on their own, and it takes so much time out. If that can be done, and just a rough idea of what the access points are that have been accounted for, be proud about what has been accounted for, but then the student that knows one of my things isn't on the list, they can go and then look up accessibility options, but it just cuts down a lot of things.
Thanks, Vaughan. And I think that's a really brilliant note to end on, isn't it? It's something we can definitely take away and implement in our everyday as well. But yes, I want to just call everyone to say thank you to our wonderful panel this morning, and I hope it's been useful and helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe it's a break now, and you've got till 11:15. I'm looking at Kerry for the nod. Yep, 11:15. Thank you.